So this video is going to go over my favorite Rogue Company settings, and not only that, I do think my settings are some of the best when it comes to aim as well as movement, and movement is something I really prioritize in this game because overall inside Rogue Company the movement is great if you know how to master it correctly. Again, I will show you my controller setup as well to let you know what kind of controller I have, and I'll show you what I actually map to each button on top of that. But if you do enjoy this kind of content for Rogue Company, we'll be making a lot more, so make sure you subscribe to the channel as we're trying to reach our goal of 10k subscribers, and also click that link in the description if you do like watching Warzone content. Subscribe to our main channel as well. But I will be making a lot more kind of tips and tricks kind of content for Rogue Company as well, because I do really enjoy this game. But let's get on into the actual settings. So when it comes to the display settings, first of all, we've got the full screen, then we've got it set to 1440p. This game is not really all that intensive, to be honest. You can actually play this on a Nintendo Switch, so let's be perfectly honest, you don't really need the best settings in this game anyway to do well. The graphics are actually okay to begin with, so like I said, if you do just want to copy these settings, I do actually have a pretty high-end PC. I also play on PlayStation 5 as well, and I mainly play on PlayStation 5 actually. That's why I'm a lower level on this account than I am on my PlayStation account. But I just wanted to show you this in case anyone wanted to know what the PC settings were. So I do set the global quality to auto, view distance is ultra so I can see as far as possible, make sure everything's rendered in at the farthest possible distance. The only other thing I would have set to ultra is anti-aliasing. You don't want jaggy edges, it just looks horrible for the game. Everything else is just turned to low. Let's be perfectly honest, you don't really need the quality to be that high, and this game isn't really that intensive anyway, so you can have this set to whatever you like, but that is my graphical settings. When it comes to audio, I just have the music audio turned all the way down. Character select audio is turned down as well. Objective cues are set to 75% on standard, so I just leave that as it is, although that could be pretty important to set that to maybe like 100 as well. Sound effects volume, of course you want that 100. Voice chat volume, I don't really use voice chat. That's because, like I said, I play on PlayStation, so I usually use party chat, so it doesn't really make much of a difference. This is just personal preference at this point here. Now when it comes to controls, this is where I do think my controls are actually the best when it comes to comparing it with everyone else's. Now, hold to crouch you definitely want off, and hold to sprint you definitely want off. Otherwise you'll be pressing in analog sticks for like the rest of your life pretty much. So you don't want to have these two set on. But for auto sprint, make sure you turn auto sprint on. Auto sprint on just allows you to sprint without having to click in your left analog stick. It's going to save your analog stick, it's not going to allow you to have stick drift, and it's going to save your fingers from getting cramp as well. So overall, auto sprint, have that turned on. Auto shoulder swap, turn that off. You don't really need the game trying to correct shoulder swap for you. You need to be doing this yourself on a regular basis, get better at the game. And again, we will be making a tips and tricks video all about this anyway. For mouse and keyboard, I don't really play on mouse and keyboard, so I can't really give you any advice on this one, so I'm going to skip over that. But when it comes to controller settings, these are my personal controller settings. If you've watched any of the previous two gameplay videos and you like the way my aim is, or if you like the way my movement is, then these are the exact settings I use, and I will put up a picture of my controller in just a moment when we get to the binding section. But for horizontal controller sensitivity, I have this set to 5. Vertical, I have set to 5 or a little bit lower sometimes, because if you've actually ever noticed, sometimes if your aim is kind of shooting up or down a lot quicker than it shoots left and right, then you might want to set the vertical controller sensitivity a little bit lower than what the standard sensitivity is. So sometimes I have it set to 4.5 or even 4, and it just allows me not to kind of trail away too much from the target vertically. Now you do want to set your horizontal ADS sensitivity and vertical ADS sensitivity lower when you're ADS, because that's going to allow you to be a bit more accurate when you're aiming down sights. Now when you're not aiming down sights and you're essentially just hip firing, or whatever you want to call it, blind firing, then you want to be able to move around a lot more freely, and that's what this is going to allow you to do with these settings. And then once you are aiming down sights, and why my aim is so good is just because I do drop the sensitivity down when it's aimed down sight sensitivity. You could drop it down a little bit lower to even 40 as well. 40 is pretty good too, I've tried that out. But between 40 and 50 is really good at just basically slowing down your aim just a little bit. When it comes to dead zones, now dead zones is going to be personal to your controller, because if you do have stick drift, you might want to set this higher. If you've got a brand new controller, you can set this lower. But if you've got something that's like around about a 6-month-old controller, 6 to 8 months, then a 0.1 should work perfectly fine for you. That's what I've got it set to at the moment. Acceleration boost, you do need this. I tried actually playing this game without acceleration boost, and I turned it all the way off at one point, and I went from 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 to 7 to 8. And I started noticing the difference between 7 onwards, and it allows you to track targets left and right a lot easier. So basically, if you push your analog stick, you're actually going to get more acceleration on it if you push it further. So that is kind of what you do need in a game sometimes, just allows you to track targets a lot easier, because otherwise you're going to be trailing behind if you're already trailing behind the target anyway. Now 7, 8, 9 and 10 is probably the best settings for this, so play around with that. Now when it comes to acceleration boost multiplier as well, you do want to change this too. So in my opinion, the best options here are a 1.1, a 1.2 and a 1.3. Anywhere in between that is going to be really good too. So definitely play around with these two settings. Personally, I have it set to 8 and 1.2. That works perfectly fine for me in tracking targets. But like I said, you can play around with those settings in between the ranges that I've specified. Those will be the best options. Now, ADS mode, you want to hold this as standard. When it comes to horizontal controller scope sensitivity, I have this set a little bit higher than just the standard ADS sensitivity. So these are going to be scopes like, for example, sniper scopes, anything that has a scope on it. Some of the marksman rifles actually have scopes on them as well. So it allows you to kind of track targets a little bit faster. And once you start getting a bit more aim assist, then you can start taking your shots. So that is the way you want to set this up. When it comes to invert axes and stuff like that, you don't want to do that. I have vibration turned off, but again, that's personal preference. When it comes to reload interaction, you want for a press to reload and a hold to interact. That usually works the best for me. You can switch this around as well if you really wanted to, but personally, I like to make sure I can reload first before I do anything else. Gyroscope, you don't want this on at all. You want to make sure that's turned off. When it comes to bindings now, what I will do is I will put a picture up of my 2 controller setups. Like I said, I play on PlayStation and I also play on PC, but I do use a PlayStation controller for both. Now I do have a PlayStation controller, which is a PS4 DualShock controller with the back button attachment on the PC. And then on a PlayStation 5, I actually use a standard PS5 controller with the Extreme Rate back buttons kit. And I installed this myself, by the way, which is absolutely nuts, but you do get back buttons. And the way I have this set up is that the left paddle, which will be on the right side of your screen, is set to the roll button. So that would be circle or B or whatever. And then the right side button will be set to jump. And that allows me to move around a lot easier, and it makes it super easy to move around in this game because you don't need to take your controller off the analog stick. And when you do have Stalker equipped, it just makes it a lot smoother to kind of jump and shoot and all this kind of stuff. So you want to make sure you're able to get your hands on some kind of pro controller with buttons on it. That would make your game a lot easier. If not, just use the standard default settings in the game, and I'll show you what to change in just a second. Now, one easy change you can make to make your aim better is buy some Control Freaks. Now, I use Control Freaks since like I started playing Warzone, and honestly, it's changed my aim an absolute ton. And it's probably one of the easiest things you could do to your controller to make your aim a lot better, and you only need it on your right analog stick. That's what I use it for, and it just makes your aim a ton better. So definitely get some Control Freaks if you can't get anything else. When it comes to the actual bindings now, I'll show you this on the settings menu. When it comes to open store, that's set to default. Open scoreboard, that's set to default. Contextual ping is down. Now, the emote spray wheel, I never really use this, so I have this set to clicking in the 2 analog sticks because I've actually changed some of these bindings here. This is not really an important thing if you're trying to be competitive inside Rogue Company. Now, if you do like just doing emotes and stuff, then you can have this set to wherever you want. But personally, if you want to be competitive, these are the settings you should be using. Now, when it comes to jump, I would recommend if you don't have any paddled controllers, just leave the jump button set to what it is. It's going to be the best setting for you. Sprint, you want to click in the analog stick to sprint, which is the standard button. Crouch, you want to click in the right analog stick, which is the standard button once again. Dodge and roll, you want B or circle. When it comes to aim, you want the left trigger, right trigger to fire. Interact is square or X. When it comes to the gadget, I have the left bumper set to the gadget, which is the standard. Toggle shoulder, I also have set to standard at right bumper. Now, I actually did swap this to the right analog stick and change around some of the bindings when I was playing on PlayStation for a while. And I do realize now why they have this set to right bumper, and that is because it is just the best setting to make it a lot easier for smoother movements. So definitely just leave it as standard. I think it is better. I tried using the analog stick and it just doesn't work out as well. Ability, LBRB, which is usual standard as well. And then to swap gadgets, I actually have binded this to the right button, and it just makes it a lot easier to kind of switch between gadgets. If you've got like a smoke grenade and like a thermite, for example, then you can swap between them very, very easily. And then melee, I have set to the left button. So this would be the emote button. But this is going to allow me to melee a lot easier without having to kind of mash like something like an analog stick or anything like that. I just have melee set to the left D-pad button, which is going to make it a lot easier. When it comes to gameplay now, this is all just kind of standard. I don't really have anything changed here. I'd put the hold and double press time set as low as possible, and that's just to make sure that your hold time is super quick, and everything else is kind of HUD and all that kind of stuff. I do have my reticles changed to green on PlayStation. I have them left on white here, but if you do want to set it to a color, I think green's probably the best color to do it. And that is the best settings for Rogue Company. Now, if you do want to see the actual gameplay behind this, then we do have 2 videos already on the channel. One with a Chak gameplay and the other's got a Lancer gameplay. And we will be making tons more gameplay videos as well. We'll also be making a kind of tier guide of what are the best guns to use in Rogue Company in a future video. But if you did enjoy this one, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And thank you very much for watching.